3, 2, 1, and welcome back to Chasin' the Racin, episode 57, and we're down at the machine shop, not far from Mallory Park near Hinckley.
Yeah.
And we're joined with a live sponsor, so welcome to the show, lads. And firstly, we came down here. We'll stick a little bit of a YouTube video together to sort of explain what we've been up to today. But Dom brought his little pit bike down, and Bob has very kindly, I was going to say helped him, but it was more like...
Let's be totally honest about this, you know what I mean? I totally got my hand held through the whole situation.
Yeah, well, he started out and decided to take have some pity on you. And, give you a little bit more than a helping hand, but you got there in the end.
Well, that's it. But I'll tell you what, though, we've said this on the pod so many times. What you've set up here is absolutely brilliant. The concept is it's based upon me, but more successfully. You know what I mean? It's dead simple and it works. This is such a great idea. How did you come up with this? What's your experiences?
I've been riding bikes years and years and years since I was a teenager, and I was rebuilding a Hornet 600, and I wanted to put a CBR 600 engine into it. And I know, the only thing I learned from that was don't do that. But I was repainting the frame. I wanted to get it sandblasted, but I was living over in Kerry in the west of Ireland, and there was no one around that would sandblast it for a reasonable price. So I was thinking, I'll buy a sandblaster and I'll put it in the local petrol station and put a coin meter on there. Anybody can use it. I'll get my money back and make some passive income. I was like, that's a great idea. And of course, I was 21. I was too busy drinking and shagging, and never done anything about it.
Then you ran out of money and thought, "Damn it! I should have got that sandblaster." There we go.
Yeah. And as you get older, like you need more money all the time to continue shagging. And so I was working up in Castle Donington. I was working for Norton, and we went on me and myself, Kev, that sat beside me here. We go on bike trips every year, and we tried to ride 2 sports bikes to Greece. And we got lost in a minefield, but one of the literal minefield. Well, that's another story.
A couple of Irishmen in a minefield. We're taking a trip down memory lane here. This is all good, isn't it?
It's definitely a tangent, but the idea of it was we'll go to Bosnia. There's loads of minefields there, and the goal was we'll stand at the side of a field and fuck some stones into the field and see if we can set a landmine off. It'd be a great crack. But we got lost up this road, and it turned out to be the minefield that we were lost in. But one of the topics of conversation that came up was this sandblaster idea that I had when I was 21. And I was like, wouldn't it be great if we could expand on that, and we can put welding machines in there, we can put mills, lathes, all sorts of other stuff. And sorry, we're getting interrupted by a dog.
Oh, no, we've got some... We've just got some bitches outside there trying to get in. Obviously, very loyal dogs. I'll tell you what, great security guards. But anyway, let's crack on with this story. I've heard this before, Chrissy. It's absolutely brilliant, man.
The idea was what we do is give engineering equipment to people instead of having to rely on other people like what I was relying on that sandblasting guy. I'll buy my own sandblaster and put it there, and everybody can use it. And that just kind of expanded over this conversation that we were having in the middle of a minefield where we were trying not to get killed, and it took our minds off it. But when we got back, we put some numbers down on a bit of paper and says, like, what will we charge people? How big can we go? How dangerous can we go with machinery? So we've got like mills and lathes in there. The biggest issue is obviously health and safety and insurance, keeping people safe when they're using these machines. So we done a bit more looking into it. About 2 or 3 months later, Kev came over to my house, and he's seen a book, how to, was it?
Marketing for Dummies.
Marketing for, yeah.
But Bob had been talking about this idea for a while at this stage. Like, he on and off, he talked about it in passing, and a lot of people tend to talk a lot of shit in their 20s. You know, I'm gonna open a bar, I'm gonna do this and that. And Bob was the first person that I'd ever met that had actually done something about it. And so he bought this book, Marketing for Dummies, so that got me hooked. He was the first person that actually had a good idea and was actually willing to do something about it. So I started, because he's an awful tendency of going on tangents, and
as you can tell.
Yeah. But I started writing down all his numbers, all the fact checking it, writing down all his ideas and just putting a plan together for him. Mm-hmm. And that's all I've really done for him.
Deciphering my shite.
And then that's turned into basically like you described it. It's kind of like a gym, so a gym membership. But
exactly,
but you come down and there's lathes, mills, all welding equipment. Are you getting a spray booth sorted?
Yeah, it's a spray booth, powder coat, and Cerakote.
So basically, if anyone that's doing track days, club racing, BSB, whatever, you've got this hub of technical excellence where you can come down
Oh, nice.
and you can get
I'm blushing.
and it everyone grouping in together, fixing things, making things, and I mean, we've only been here a few hours and it's been mint crack, and like we've both said, if this was on our doorstep, we'd be here all the time. Now, we're in sort of Hinckley area, what's the sort of catchment area of people coming?
Our average is about within an hour's drive of here, but we've literally got members in Essex. We've got this guy, he's rebuilding a Jag in Essex, so it's not limited to bikes. We'll take anybody at the moment. We need the money after Corona. But he comes up. He works on his Jag during the week, and if he can't finish something, he'll put it in the back of his Renault Espace, and he'll wait for the weekend. Yeah, so he'll get 4 or 5 items that he needs to finish: sandblast, weld, powder coat, or mill, lathe, whatever he needs to do. He'll come up on a Saturday, and he just takes one piece out, works on it, finishes it, puts it back in the car, goes on to the next bit. Yeah, and that saves him an absolute fortune on his car. Otherwise, he'd have to pay other people to do that and wait.
And like you used a brilliant expression, I believe from the Bible, Chrissy. Give a man a fish. Hold on, you taught me through this because I'm too thick to remember.
I just kind of
it.
came out with that. That was a lot of shite.
No, it was brilliant. No. So you can give a man a fish.
No, that
and
was about. So currently we rely on professionals to do stuff for us. So say if you warp the head on your bike. Yeah, you have to bring it to a machinist. You hand it to a machine. You say, "How much is that?" He's going to charge you a load of money, and then you're waiting for him. He'll say, "It's going to be a week. It's going to be 2 weeks." You're waiting for him all the time. So what we do is we supply the equipment to the people who can do this stuff themselves. Yeah. So if they've got a job, like, "Oh, I know how to do it. I know exactly how to do it. I don't have the equipment. I don't have the mill. I don't have the welder." Yeah. You can buy a membership here. Yeah. That starts off at £30 a month. It's dirt cheap, and you can come here and use that. And you don't have to wait for anybody. I'm open, from 9 a.m. till 11 p.m. every day.
The best thing about them working hours is it's not regular working, so you can finish work, come down here, have the crack, and get jobs done. You're not like a bloody hairdresser where you open at 9 and 5 where everyone's at bloody work.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Exactly.
You've got sensible working hours.
And also, you said about if people know how to do it themselves, they can come down and crack on.
Yep.
But I think the best bit as well is if you're like me and don't have a clue what to do, there's people there to help. Yeah, and you do workshops and
so I teach welding as well. I've been welding for years and years and years. I used to make all the tanks and the aluminium frames at North Motorcycles. I left there last summer to start this, and so I've been welding. If I can't weld, it can't be welded. Pat my own back there.
Now that's a good teacher. That if I am the man, and if it doesn't go past me, say it again. Go on, a bit more balls about it. Go on, say it again.
I know that everybody I used to work with will be sitting at home like,
I am the man.
I am the man.
That's it. That's what I like to hear. There you go.
Yeah. So basically, when I was learning to weld, I was always looking for somebody to kind of take me into their shed and stop laughing, you. Take me into their shed and sit down and say, "This is how you weld." Instead, I nicked my dad's stick welder, and I had a pair of like tinted glasses. Yeah, and I was burning my eyes out trying to learn to stick weld, and there was no YouTube then. And I was only about 15. There was YouTube, but I had no internet. West of Ireland. And so I just burnt my eyes out, and I always wanted to become a welder. I was mad interested in metal my whole life. And all I wanted was somebody to show me, sit me down and say, do this, do that, and practice that. And that's what I can do in 4 hours now. So what we do is we do 4-hour welding lessons. And in that, I'll sit you down and I will bypass all the theory, because I've done all my welding codes. I've sat there through the theory classes, a load of bollocks. You don't need to learn about that. No welder has ever become a good welder from reading a book. It's practice. Yeah. So within walking in the door, you're welding in 3 or 4 minutes. You're sat down, just like you, Dom. Usually people are a bit better than that. And we're sat down.
True.
We're straight into welding and practice. And I sit behind you and I call you till you get it right. Yeah.
I've had that all my life, to be fair. There we go. But honestly, it was like the system, the way it's ran, but the professionalism of how this is set up. It's not, you are not just turning up to a shed. You're not turning up just to like back door. It's so well laid out. It's properly inviting, and like you say, Chrissy, I'm absolutely gutted. You just need to expand the empire, gentlemen.
We will,
get this bloody book back out and get it.
Yeah.
Now, for people listening, if they want to get in touch, where's the best like social media website? Go on here, plug away.
Plug away. There's loads of routes to our websites, our social medias. It's just the machine shop, or type in machine shop. You might have to look for us a little bit because we're just a new company, but we're getting involved with lots of other companies around the area as well. Just kind of like the riding schools. With the riding schools, what we're doing.
Sorry. We actually do have a bitch in the cab. You know what I mean? It's look, absolutely just chugging away there. Sorry, interrupting there.
No, you're right. So we're teaming up with the local riding schools and local companies around the area. So when I was a teenager, I had an absolute heap of shit of a bike. It wasn't roadworthy whatsoever, and I just got my mate to put a dodgy MOT on it, that kind of thing. So what we do is we give free lessons to learner riders. Every so often, we can't do it all the time, but we give free lessons to learner riders, so then they can bring their bike here and we can show them how to give it a health check, make sure that their chain's right, their bearings, their headstock bearings are right, their engine's running okay, and make sure that bike is safe, because they don't know. I didn't know, and I've got a mechanical head in me. I was still driving a heap of shit, but that's the sort of stuff we're doing. So we're casting the net a little bit wider than racing at the moment, but racing's our primary thing.
But you were talking about like drift cars. So like, at the end of the day, you're the machine shop. It's not the bike shop. You know what I mean? Anything to do with engineering, any metalworks, absolutely anything you need. But bloody hell, if you want to make a frying pan, come see these lads. You will teach any aspect of it. But having that there, so if you pay your membership, for example, you were saying, mate, you can literally come just use the tire machine. If you go to Quick Fit, you might as well wear balaclavas down there. It's like 20 odd quid. You can come down, you know what I mean? So you come here, you get taught how to do it yourself, and it's just ideal. And if your missus is being handy, lazing around the house, you know what I mean, kick up the arse and get them a membership here.
That's what they are. No joke. I've literally had couples coming in for welding classes together.
Mint.
It's brilliant. And then they get really competitive, and the girls are always better welders than fellas. Always.
Where were they in there? Right, we're going to come back when it's full of hinnies.
They heard you were coming.
Understandable. There we are. Got me bad welding skills. There we go.
Spot on. Well, thanks very much for joining us on the podcast. We're down at Michael Rutter's place next, so we've got the legend on for a bit of crack about his career. But thanks very much, and we'll catch up soon.
Shout my number.
You're sorry?
If you're looking for me,
I love that. I love that. I'm the sponsor. Can I? We are filming this. This is brilliant. Leave any details you want, sunshine. You know what I mean? And that's all we've got time for.
My own personal phone number, if you need anything, is 07496999037, and you should be able to find our website with a simple Google search. Yeah.
Fabulous. So any questions, either you've got website, Facebook, Instagram,
and my phone number,
and the phone number, so no excuses. So thanks a lot, lads, and catch up soon.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot.
Lads. Cheers.
Sound.
So great to be down in the Black Country, I think is what they call it, and we're joined by the Blade Michael Rutter. Now, first of all, we were talking about this on the way down. The Black Country, where does that get its name from?
Well, it goes back to Queen Victoria times, basically. I think what the saying is, well, I don't know if it's true or not, it's only the saying I've heard, is she was going through on a train going up north, and she goes, what's this place, this Black Country? And that's where it got its name.
Is that like industrial?
Industrial, basically. It's a lot of the ironworks foundries. At night it was bright from the foundries, and in the day it was black because of the soot and the and all the industrial work. I think that was the main part about it, and Queen Victoria meant to have said that. I don't know if it's true or not, but it sounds good.
It sounds brilliant, because obviously when I saw you down at MCN London, I just thought you were being heavily racially abusive to people. I'm like, the Black Country, you can't say things like that on loud microphones. I thought, bloody hell,
No,
Michael.
it's different, like when we say Birmingham or whatever like that, sometimes you were Brummie, but it's we're definitely not Brummies. We're Black Country.
Black Country, I like it.
It's great to obviously down at the workshop and have a look around. There's a hell of a lot of like memorabilia and history, not just from yourself as well, but your late father. Some special bits of kit that I bet you massively treasure.
Oh God, yeah. We're so lucky, really, because obviously I've been racing. Well, I've been since I've been born, really, because I've been with my dad. So I've always felt very close to, especially road racing, because that's what I remembered, like with TT and going to that event. It was like the best 2 weeks of my life. Going there. I never wanted to come back. So those things are stuck, and I've got so much little bits and pieces from my dad's. A lot of my stuff years ago people used to give away and never used to treasure. Like now, I try and keep a set of every leather, set of one helmet, and basically I've got like 99% of the stuff. But with my dad, it's really a shame. Really, I've got one or two things of his, and that's it really. So I've got little special things which like his dog tags and things like that, which have been through a bit, all lock wired together and some trick little bits, but. Yeah, it's special, and we've got a couple of his old Ducatis and Yamahas and that, so I'm very lucky, really.
So normally we actually go like straight back to the beginning and go, how did you get into it? But I want to know, how did your dad get into it? Do you know how your dad got into racing?
Well, what I was told by him, he just basically, his dad didn't want him to do anything to do with motorbikes, so it was basically he did something himself and just got on with it. And I think we had a lot of good roads around here over towards from probably where he was brought up in Wordsley and over towards Bridge North, and I think a few people said you would start go racing, which he did, and there was quite a few famous people from around here done it.
Mm-hmm. Now, I've recently just finished your autobiography. For people on YouTube, you can see it here in the corner, just being signed.
Okay, I know he's sitting across from you, but let's have an honest review on it, Chrissy. What did you make of it?
Thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm not just saying it. But from reading your book, obviously I was aware of your father, and I was aware that he was a TT winner and stuff, but I didn't actually realise how good he was in terms of what his achievements. And it's almost when you sort of hear like say Carl Fogarty is a household name really in the UK, and it's amazing like what your dad achieved and the little the fame and admiration that comes with it. I find it odd, really.
Yeah, I think though if people want it, you can have it, and my dad was one of those people. Just he loved racing bikes, that was it. Anything else in life he didn't really care about. He was just 100%, and that's what he did till the day he died. It was the week before last time I really spoke to him properly. It was just about motorbikes. Nothing else really cared in his life. From girlfriends to anything to do with me. It was just all to do with talking about what's happening at Donington Park or Mallory Park or. What you're doing next week, what with race bikes. So
you can clearly see that passion's massively rubbed off on yourself as well. And at your age to be so, still you can still see the passion and the drive and returning back to your BSB every year, Macau, Northwest TT. It's very admirable, but it's amazing that
admirable. It's bloody amazing. It is absolutely phenomenal. So at what point now? Each rider comes with that natural instinct to beat everyone. So growing up, when you first got on a bike, did you think, I'm going to be better than the old man? Was that ever a plan in your head?
Never, because I never thought, well, I still not. Like my dad was world champion, he was British champion. He won, he did GP, he did everything my dad. And speaking to other people as well, they used to say how hard rider he was, but he never came across like that to me. And I really just started racing and just thought I just want to do it because I enjoy doing it, and then I got to a point where, and everyone knows it cost a fortune. I was lucky I got left some money by my nan, and basically it just started going on and on from there. And then I thought this has got to stop sometime, and luckily the year after I got a paid ride to ride. So I've been so lucky. It's been in the right place at the right time, and that's the big thing with motorbike racing.
And obviously you mentioned in your book about your nan leaving. Was it like 25 grand or something?
Something
and
like
then,
yeah.
And you put that straight into racing and sort of got to the point just as you were running out of money that you got the point of picking up that professional ride, and obviously the rest is history. Now, do you know when you very first started, was it always in mind to follow in the footsteps of your dad and do short circuits and the roads?
Well, that was my dad's thing, really. I never did. I've never won anything really, like club race championships to Superstock championships to BSB. I've been very close in a lot of times, but yeah, he took me really, and we went from like Knockhill to Brands Hatch, both ends of the country, all over the place. Pembury, we just did everything, but not one stopped at like doing like a club series at one track. So it did me a lot of good in a way. At the time, looking back, I wish I'd probably gone and done something like one series just to do it. But looking back on it, it was probably good in one way because I learned so many different things. I rode so many different bikes, and he just told me basically learned the biggest lesson he told me was in the wet weather is to enjoy it. And if you enjoy something, he said, Michael, you'll go quick. And I think that's to do with anything in racing and working on bikes. If you enjoy it, we spend hours here at the workshop, me and Alec, and it's not just right. It's got to be 100% right every time, and the best of anything you can buy, what you can physically afford anyway. And it's got to have that every time, and that's all you can do. Then it's down to the rider and the team and everything to put it together.
Well, they say that if you enjoy what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, and it's kind of,
yeah, it is
like that,
yeah,
really.
I've really never worked.
By racing. Now, what was your first, like, know that when you make that step through from getting a bit of sponsorship and sort of people covering the costs of racing, when was the first step through when it actually became a full-time job and you thought, yeah, I'm going to have a career out of this?
Well, basically, it was when I got help, and I was so lucky off like the Motorcycle Mart in Kidderminster. They helped me out because they sponsored my dad, and I always got little bits of help like that. Well, at the time, there were very big bits of help, but if you put that got put together, and then I think it was '93, I got really my first where I got paid, I think £100 a week, and I couldn't believe it. I think Ray was on £120 a week. So I think he was on about 120. He was like, I can't believe you. You said you lucky sod, like it took me till now to get paid, and I was like, I think I'm 19 or whatever, and I was riding a super bike. And looking back on it now, I think, Jesus Christ, I was young, and I was riding bigger bikes before that anyway, but 8.5 ones I think there were, or things like that. And I had my dad's dead 750 Ducati. I was riding single. I had the dream upbringing really with it, and probably didn't appreciate it at the time till I look back on it. But I don't think you ever do till you look back over videos. And there's been some things, obviously, with what's going on at the moment with the virus and everything. There's stuff coming up, and I'm going, God, I can't remember that race. I can't even remember being in that race, And it's fantastic to look back on it.
It's funny. My first memories of Bsb was back, when it was on BBC One or BBC Two or whatever, and Steve Parrish and Charlie, I can't remember his second name, but they were the presenters, and it was the days where you were on the H Plant Honda with John Reynolds was kind of, it was between you and John Reynolds, and going to Croft and the banking and everything, and it was very surreal for me when I first started racing in Superstock 1000, because the person that I'd stood as a little lad sort of waving my hat at, I was suddenly like bashing. I'm saying bashing parents.
You did bash
literally, and it was a bit surreal. Now, we'll come on to that. But one of the things I was wanting to ask you from your book is something that stood out quite early on was the story about being chased by a bear. Now, in was it over in America or something? Now, tell us the story.
Yeah, it was in Boston, and every time I went to America, I broke something somehow. I just wanted to beat the Americans, basically. And
I was about to say, let's go back a little bit here. What the hell were you doing in America for beginning with?
Luckily, this is like through another sponsor. They said, like, do you want to go and do a few one-off races in their championship? So I went Laguna, and obviously this New Hampshire, I think it was Raceway or something like that it was called. And we just turned up, and there was this mad American who sponsored us, and we took parts from my bike because he got a road bike out there, and obviously got standard suspension in, and we just took my suspension out my Ducati I think it was 916, and the swinging arm, and took it over there and bolted it in over there and raced it. But we never had tyre warmers. It was just a bit of a half-hearted thing, and I used to just try too hard and smash myself up. And I broke my collarbone, I think there in Boston, that one. The other one was in Laguna. I think I broke some ribs. But it was just come off the banking basically, and obviously in England we didn't have banking unless we went to Rockingham, and that was years after. But you got to be so careful going down the banking, off the banking onto the normal track, because there was just like a lip, and it just fired me off. I just stupid, I shouldn't have really tried that hard and set fire to the bike and all that. And then I like running with one arm down with a fire extinguisher, 'cause all the Americans were running away from it, and I put the bike out. And then got back. We started driving back, and we stopped in some ski resort, and I couldn't sleep because everyone knows if they broke a collarbone, it is just pain. It's just awkward pain. And I got up and I thought I'd go for a walk, and I just sat outside this condo kind of thing, looking up at it quite high up, and I heard some rustling in the back, and I thought, what's that? And it was a massive bear, like a massive. I just didn't even look, just run, and I escaped it, but that could have been a nasty ending.
I was about to say, I bet you didn't think about the pain with your collarbone at that
Do you know
point.
what?
I'll tell you
It's
what.
amazing what you can forget.
That's it. I can't sleep. I bet you bloody slept well after that, mate. I'm telling you. Jesus.
Yeah, so that was that, and it's like the American one as well. When I the other one in Laguna, I crashed there right behind Freddie Spencer, and it was like being someone when you, like you say, you grow up watching Freddie Spencer doing what he was doing, and there I was. I did about 3 laps behind Freddie Spencer. I'd never been to Laguna before, and it was probably the second session, and I thought I'll just hang on to the back of him, and that was a big mistake.
Just
Bang,
that easy.
First corner, I sided down the road. I went and ended up in over there. The medical side of it over there was so more advanced than the English. They had like X-ray machines in there, and they X-rayed me, and they said straight away, "You've been drinking Coca-Cola," and I goes, "Yeah," and they could tell by like there's a massive big ball in your stomach of air and gas. And he goes, "It's real good. It's staying." I don't know if it's true or not, but it stains like so they can see more of the, on an X-ray. And I goes, "Right, okay." And
Have you drank Coca-Cola since?
never. Do you know what? I put
Really?
me off it from that day on. I used to drink like loads of it, and from what would that be? 91, 92 or something. I've drunk it if I've been drinking gin and Jack Daniels and
with a
Coke
chaser
and,
in it. There you go.
I mean, I wouldn't really normally buy some Coke to after that, but it was amazing. The picture on the scan, it was like massively ball, and it was like.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
Not for me.
put me off anyway. I hope we'll never get sponsored by Coca-Cola after this one anyway. But hey, before we move on to the next one, did you ever get to meet Freddie Spencer?
Yes, I did. I've met him a couple of times at Goodwood, and what a nice bloke, so fast.
Did you
know what I
remind
mean?
him of that? I was towing you, and you wrote me off.
Yeah, he's very, he's obviously very competitive, and but I met him once or twice.
Freddie Spencer, sorry, my history's terrible with this motorsport malarkey, but Freddie Spencer, he won the 500 and the 250 in this. Was that the same year?
Yeah.
Well, he was a
Yeah,
hell of a
it's
pilot.
amazing.
He came into it at such a competitive time as well.
Oh,
with
yeah,
all the big hitters, and
I
then
know.
just turned up and just blitzed everyone. He didn't even know the tracks as well. He'd never been the tracks. Imagine doing like what Mark Marquez is doing. He was like 21 or something as well, wasn't
Well,
he?
everybody has their day, and he was at the time. He
had 2 years where he was just amazing.
He was
wasn't he?
amazing, yeah. And it was interesting. I followed some people like Kevin Swan, so I've raced against him, and he was always my hero. And I was in Suzuka with the Honda Legends team, me and McGuinness, and that, and being behind Kevin Swan at Suzuka, because I always remember him on that, on the Pepsi Suzuki. Smoke coming off the tyres, and it was just like surreal, really, because following him, and he was spinning it up out of corners, still the same stance on the bike and everything, and it was like, wow. I followed him for about 4 laps, and he started pulling away, and I thought, my God, he's 50 some odd years old, and absolutely smoking me.
I think you've almost answered the same question, but it's who is the first hero you beat on track? Someone that you looked up to and went, "I tell you what, today's my day, sunshine. I'm going through you." Who was that? Your first hero? Because he's answered mine. Michael Rutter cutting him up, bashing parents with you. So there you are. He's answered that question.
It's difficult. I can't. It's there's so many people I've raced against, and remembering that first one, one what sticks out to me is the Cole Fogarty one when I was behind him in that wet race in '97. We were very lucky with the V&M Honda. We'd been racing 2 weeks before, and it rained, so we had a good setup. And obviously, the first part of the race was dry, and I ended up, I think, I could have been about 12th, 13th, which is, those grids then, it was phenomenal. You know, 30. I think there was 38 people on the grid. If you, I think I qualified 22nd, and it was just like there were heroes like virtually all the way through it. It was very, very competitive. And the first part of the race I got going well, and they got stopped because it started to drizzle. So I made a few plays up there, and I think I got up to about 12th. And then the second race, it just absolutely, second part of that race, it poured down, and I was just going my own business. I looked at my pit board and I thought, well, God, you know, P2. I thought that's good, and I could see, I could see Carl in front, and I caught him up, and obviously we had that bit of knowledge from a bit before, 2 weeks before, so yeah, I just pulled up behind him. I thought, oh no, what shall I do? And I thought, if I take him out, there was millions of people at Brands there. I've never seen it so busy, you know, ever since, and it was just. I followed him. I thought, I just can't pass him. I just can't bring myself to do it. And I thought, oh, sod this, I'm going to do it now. And went for it. And then I was messing around because it had P1 on my board. And I was just like, when it's racing's dead easy when you don't have to try. And it was easy. You know, when I'm riding around now in super stock, you know, 15th, 20th place, I'm trying a lot harder. But it was just easy. And yeah, it just came to me, and I was wheeling and everything, and yeah, I finished obviously third, but I nearly missed out on that. Nearly was fourth because messing about, because I didn't know what.
But yeah,
they were just getting me on P1. That's
actually
all
crossed the line first, but on aggregate,
on aggregate I got
dropped down.
So
and speaking of, you know, like racing with childhood heroes and like legends of the sport, obviously you were very privileged to share the track with Joy, and obviously the very last TT for Joy was an incredible. After reading your book, I actually went and watched the race, and that last lap, you know, I don't know how many times you passed each other, but it was just back, forth, and go on, you can.
Well, basically, with the first race, on the Saturday, the Superbike race, Joey was, I think it was different numbers then. They swapped the numbers around for how quick he did in practice. I think Joey was behind me. Yeah, it was, and went off the line, and David Jeffries broke down. I thought, wow, this is a big chance for me, because no one was going to beat David Jeffries. You know, he was another level at that time, and I was there minding my own business on the first lap, and it had been raining, and I was like upright in some places. Some of the track was real wet through going towards Ramsey, and Joey come through past me, and like he must have been 20 seconds behind me on the road, so he caught me up that much in half a lap, and there was spray coming off the tyre. He was sideways. I goes, he can have it. I just said, no way. That's just unreal. You know, it was amazing. Within 4 or 5 corners, he was gone. I've never seen him the rest of the race. And obviously Joey, that was the last race Joey won. That was like, you know, phenomenal. And me, Joey, and I think Fatty McGuinness was third. So he was like, you know, it was a brilliant podium. Obviously I'd love to have won one, but I never actually did win a big bike race there, but you'll keep trying. But yeah, going back to when the last lap, so basically in the senior race, Joey, I think our number started in front of me, so David gone, he was like way out in front, and I passed Joey somewhere going towards Sulby, and I thought, right, I won't see that silly old sod again, you know, because he was like my age now, 48, 49, and I thought, that's it, minding my own business. Next thing is this Honda comes flashing past me again. I thought, oh no, here we go, and he was so fast, just so fast in some places, like I just couldn't take it in. And then other places where I thought I would be a lot better than him, going into some of the slower stuff and the hard braking stuff. And it was just weird. And then the last lap, I think we both got in our heads. It was just down to, no matter where we finished, it was who got across that line first, because he passed me in places where I thought, whoa, that's a bit naughty. And but, you know, cleanly, but it was like, I'll tell you, I wouldn't have passed there. But that's Joey Dunlop, you know, and I thought, wow, right, and we raced, and we passed each other it must have been 6 or 7 times that lap, and coming down the mountain, I can still see it now, his little his little head like bobbling around, like because the bike seemed too big for him. And
was this the Honda SP1?
the Honda SP1,
They
yeah.
were big bikes,
and they
weren't
were shaking a bit, and you could see the exhaust shaking. You could see his head shaking with it, and we're coming down towards the crag, and there was loads of people on the banking on the way down to the crag. I thought, right, I'm going to line him up and give him a portion in the inside here. And basically, I thought, he ain't going to stop. And he hit the brakes, and the rear wheel came up on the Honda, and I thought, I'll tell you, I ain't going to stop this neither. And we both got round the corner somehow, but he was in front again. I thought, oh my God. And that Honda was fast. It was a proper World Superbike engine Honda. Like, fair play to John, McGuinness. He had the same bike, but in a more standard engine. And we were going down then, and I thought, he's going to do me here. I thought the only place he can probably do me is signpost, going to signpost, and no chance. And I thought he's going to beat me across the line. And he went into the Nook, and he just had the rear wheel like. You'd see it on the TV, but he'd already got the wheel down by then. It was a little bit of it was the one before he hit the brakes, and he stood it up on its. I thought, no way is he going to stop this, and he nearly did. He tried everything he could, and I passed him, and I only watched it really like the other day. Someone put it online, and it was I clipped the front of his bike, I think, going into the next one. That's how competitive it was, and went across the line, and I beat him, and I never thought anything of it all, and he just, it was just weird. I was in a press conference, sitting like on a table this big, and I got Norrie White, who was a very famous person from Motorcycle News, doing the briefing after what the meeting and all, talking about what the race was like and that, and then all there was a big hand come there with a pint glass with Honda written down the side of it, and it was, Joey Dunlop, and he turned around and he just goes, really enjoyed that. And I thought, wow, and I could understand him. It's the first time I've ever understood him, and it was like, just put that pint glass down there. It was fantastic. But you got so many memories from things like, with Robert Dunlop, Steve Islop. There's so many fantastic people being in the sport, and you just could go on for weeks talking about every one of them. And David Jeffries, we had, his team. It was just, we've had so many different teammates, so much, and I really haven't had any bad ones. Really, I've been very lucky, really.
Do you think that's carried on into, shall we say, the modern TT now, that we're all a part of? Now, you're talking about a particular time era there, and it sounded like, I can't help but smile here. Like, this is a bloody podcast, I can't hear it, but I'm literally cracking with a smile. Do you think that's carrying on now? Do you think the TT's become more commercialised? Is it less of that? Like, it's still a great event, don't get me wrong. We're not trying to downplay it one bit.
I've seen the TT from probably of bad times where it was just I didn't go back for years for there was pulling you up for this, that. It was just a nightmare, the TT, and in some ways, and then some ways it was good because you got early morning practice, you got a lot, it was different atmosphere. Everyone used to go more for a drink. It was more social kind of thing, and then now it's gone definitely, it's fantastic, what they've done with the TT and the work in the paddock, because we used to just turn up in a van and throw a bike out and just get going. Now it's it's a proper paddock, and which are good things and bad things. It's all irrelevant, and we'll probably look back on it in 20 years time, go, these are the best years now. But I've been lucky. I've been watching with my dad, so I'm like 48 now, and I've seen it from a muddy field to it's all been finished off nicely with walkways and ice cream wagons and things like that. So you wouldn't change it back now to the old muddy fields and things like that. But then again, you had a different way of looking at it. Then you were people just walking around with cups of coffee and Mark Howard Centre and walking in there, and that's where you got your information from. You didn't know anything else.
See, like my favourite thing, like obviously you've got you're still so fast, and you're so competitive now, and you've actually seen like the times develop. Now, when you think David Jeffrey was going around 125, you think 125 mile an hour. We've added with Peter Hickman 10 mile an hour. Now, can you tell me the difference between that? So you were thinking I need to do 125 mile an hour to win. Now
Well,
thinking,
it's like
Jesus.
I jumped on a road bike. I've been lucky to work for PB magazine, and I jumped on a
Nice plug, by the way.
dedicated-
Nice
yeah.
plug. Very nice. Very good.
And we did 125 mile an hour lap on a road bike. First lap, never even seen. Never had seen the bike before. It just shows you how bikes have come on. But the biggest thing is track. The track was when I raced at the TT, it was so bumpy, and like everyone thinks it's bumpy now. It wasn't. And like when my dad used to say, "God, this isn't bumpy compared to I had it." So it's all irrelevant. But even I went away in 2000. That was my last year at the TT for 7 years, and I
7 years. Wow.
and basically when I came back after in 2007 for the 100-year one, I just in my head I knew where every bump was, because you got to get obviously that place imprints everything into you, and it was just like a different track to me from 7 years, and it was a lot faster, it was smoother. I was like waiting for bumps which weren't there, and like bits in the road where you just couldn't physically see, or the bike was going from lock to lock constantly, because bikes had improved so much as well in the 7 years. It was a massive shock to me, so yeah, the big difference is for me is the track and tyres. I'd say that's the biggest thing. Tyres were just terrible, the bikes didn't handle, and the track was it's a lot faster now. So, but I mean, riders are just as good because they have to deal with different things. So it's no one's any worse than or better than. It's
Speaking of changes to to the TT, obviously you've been in the British Superbike paddock over a very long period of time, and you'll have seen lots of sort of major. There's been major shifts in terms of the one make tires, what the electronics change. The TV thing that used used to be on BBC, now sort of more specialised, but more of the coverage is on, all that type of stuff. What do you see as being the most significant changes to the championship over the years?
I think major things has got to be it's a lot more open, I'd say, to the public, and a lot to do with things happening with
Come and join us, Ella. Come on.
Get a seat in here. Get a seat. Oh, we got.
Come and sit here, mate.
Now, you need a lift. I'll tell you what. I'm sacrificial. You carry on this pod. I'm the man. I'm the man.
nice.
Yeah, there you are. Carry on.
Yeah,
Michael.
go on. Sorry.
So
Don't let him slag me off.
we won't talk about that second. I think the money involved in it, that's it's massively changed it for me, and I don't think that's been a good thing for me personally, because the social side, it's more like road racing's more of a family, and you'd all help each other in a way. British Championship and Superbike and everything like that, it's more aggressive, and people won't help as well. They just don't help, and but then again, there's more money involved in it, and there's more this, more that. So I can understand probably why, in a way, everyone's fighting for that one scrap of bread.
Because we actually had Stuart Higgs on the podcast not maybe a month or so ago. One of the things we were talking about is what's up?
One sec.
Yeah, no bother. There's the doggy. Come on in. You can come and sit here. It's because I give him an ice cream. It's a girl, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
One of the things we were speaking to Stuart about is the fact that back when it was, say, on BBC, it was very much more of a sort of like yourself would be a household name. I remember, do you know, when I was talking about say when I first started battling with you, people in my local village would know Michael Rutter, where if you said say Josh Brooks now, it's not the same. Where for bike fans, you can sit on a weekend and watch every single practice session and all that type of stuff. So it has sort of changed a little bit. And one of the biggest changes, especially from reading your book, which highlighted to me, was the money in terms of the tires and stuff. You back in when it was the open tire rules, you said something about Michelin being in one season the £300,000 tire bill.
I think it was over that. It was £400,000 for me and Keogh to go racing. It was just, we had a list of tyres page. I mean, we had a booklet, A4 sheet, probably with I think 900 fronts, and I think it was probably out 200 fronts and about 100 rears. It was just phenomenal. So we couldn't have all those tyres obviously, but we'd have a selection of them and we could go through and choose
Test it.
and test them. So we had the whole back in the Michelin that year, which was phenomenal.
So there's a lot sort of fairer for the average person if they wanted to compete now, because it's very much one make, like one tyre. The electronics have been massively reduced. But for yourself, that was kind of one of your advantages when you were at the factory Honda rider. So yeah, interesting. I suppose it's all swings and roundabouts, and the championship definitely do a good job in terms of making it a show. If you look at it's a really good weekend for the fans and stuff.
Oh, it's what it is now. It's amazing what's going on now, and the whole thing, and there's every championship and every race is so competitive, which I think is a lot more so than everything. Bikes are a lot nearer, closer. Like when I was at the HM plant bike, there was a handful of bikes which could win, and that was it. Now, I'd say at least 12, 13 bikes could win the race. So it's it's a lot more competitive, a lot more close, and a lot more fraught, I think.
Now, you've had some interesting teammates, I'd say, over the years. With let's see, so the like Sean Emmett, Shaky Byrne, Keogh. They're all massive characters in the sport. But I guess you've seen a lot behind the scenes of what happening. Obviously, Kianari is. When he first came over at the championship, he was a little bit of an unknown for the British fans, and he was an absolute sensation when he came over. But he's somebody that he's like a closed book almost, isn't he? You don't really get much crack.
Well, Keogh is exactly what I thought, and I come out and seen him when he came out for the first time and met him, and he was so quiet. But then got to know him more, and he was like one side of Keogh in front of the Japanese, and then there was another Keogh with us, and he was like proper out of control, smoking, drinking. He was hilarious. Keogh he's a really, if he could show what he was like normally, he'd be a massive superstar in England, because he was.
It's time for him yet, mate. I think if Keogh, if you are listening, I think it's a room at the Bathams team.
It's really good. Oh God, yeah, you'd have Keogh any day. Like, he could ride a bike. That bloke, if he knew what made him tick, and he could make that work for him. I've never seen. There's not many people have gone wow. I've seen Steve Islop. He used to, on his day, he was another one. He was a genius, and I think Keogh's got the same kind of breed with him. On his day, no one was going to beat Keogh, and same with Steve Islop. So yeah, I've had Sean Emmett, which I couldn't stand Sean Emmett. I was like, I hated him before I met him. And
how does that even work?
because I raced against him, and you always hate the people. Really, you got to have some kind of hate. You pick on them for something, and I just thought I don't want him as a teammate. And I got to know Sean, and he's got a heart of gold really as well. And so everyone's got their faults, like I have myself. It's but.
Care to elaborate? Come on, we're an open book here. We're an open.
I'm not telling you. Not yet.
Now, obviously, you mentioned before about you're not winning a particular championship, but if there was a championship for Macau, that has massively been a successful place for you every year. And looking through the stats, they're most successful. Is it 9 wins now?
9 wins, yeah.
After this year, last year, sorry, and it's a great event for yourself. Talk us about how you first went to Macau and how it became a thing.
How it come about? Basically, Mike Trimby, who runs IRTA from GP, he was helping us out. Just said, Michael, do you want to come along to do Macau? And I was like, whoa, I ain't going over that part of the world, and. That's a bit worrying. I sort of thinking, God, I've never raced, I've done anything, never been that part. I've been from Brightly Hill here in the West Midlands to offer to go somewhere like that, and it was fantastic. Got there, I just couldn't believe, because what you don't appreciate now, you land on a plane, which we were landing at the old airport in Hong Kong. So basically, through the middle of Hong Kong, you've seen people hanging the washing up, eating their eating their sushi and Chinese and everything, and you land, and there was just the doors opened, and there was no like, air conditioned units. It was just like, wow, the heat here. And I'd never seen or felt anything like that before, and I got there, and it was just magical world, really. I got pulled around by Philip McCallan, and he taught me a lot of bad things, and got me into lots of trouble. And it was a real good laugh. We had Simon Beck, all the old racers, Dave Goodley, and it was just Nick Morgan. It was all. It was just a fantastic week, which you could never ever talk about.
So you were saying like bad habits there from Mr. McCallan there. Has there we were asking Lee Johnson the same question. Have you ever been out on track with someone that you go, I don't want to be on track with this person?
Well, yeah, like Philip, talking about Philip, really, there, it was a lot of people didn't like how Philip rode, they thought he was very aggressive, and to be fair, the only thing I had with Philip, I think it was about 97, 600 race, and we're going down the straight, and I felt like just an elbow just push into me, and I thought, so I'll just give him an elbow back, and then he give me another one, I'll give him one back, and that was it then. So we had no problem, but I think he did intimidate people, and that was his way. You either dealt with it or you didn't, and if someone gives you a bit
portion,
a big portion. Yeah, you try and give them one back. I couldn't catch you though.
Now, speaking of like fast laps at Macau, the lap record still stands from back in 2010 with Stuart Easton. Interestingly enough, you also set your fastest ever lap around Macau back in 2010, which, when you think about how much the bikes and stuff have came on since, now Stuart was riding for, was it MSS that year?
No, it was Paul Bird
on the Kawasaki.
Yeah, it was on the World Superbike Kawasaki. And it's another one, Stuart, there's people you just bring up. Stuart on his day, another Steve Islop, no one was going to beat Stuart on that day. And, you gave him at a British Championship, some meetings, and he would go and win British Championship meetings. And the next minute he'd be down the grid, and you couldn't understand why. But the bloke was amazing talent. And on that day, he just, I tried following him, and it's the hardest I've tried in Macau. I went round, because I wanted to beat Paul Bird's team, the World Superbike team. We were on the Ducati, and I thought the Ducati's probably better suited to Macau. And I looked at my time in qualifying, and there's a massive big screen at the end of the straight. I thought, yeah, no one's going to beat that. And I think he beat it by quite a bit. And I was like, I just couldn't believe it. So I thought, race, I'm just gonna try and get past him. And he had a good start, and I clipped. I've clipped the Armco once, and that was the time I'd done it. And he taught me a big lesson. I thought, you can't try like that. It's either got to come naturally, which, like I say, when you win some of these races, they're so easy. It's the ones where you're trying to chase people, and that's the hard ones. And he just cleared off and lap record and went away in the distance.
Was it around that time as well that you had Stuart working for you at the TT?
Oh God, yeah.
What job was he doing in the pit stop?
In 2009, I basically split from Rob Mack's team. I couldn't ride the Yamaha. It was too brace for me. I didn't like it, and I just thought, I don't want to go I went to the Northwest, and it scared me. I thought, TT, I'm not doing it. This is how the first thing I came with the Bathams. I had nothing at all, so I walked into the pub, and they said, well, Matt and Tim Batham might be interested in doing some help and sponsorship. So I went and knocked on the door, and fair play to them, they came up with it. They came up with the money to buy a bike and get me to the TT. So we just used the brewery van, which they've still got down there, and Jason Jones, my mechanic at the time, run around doing things for me and getting the Suzuki ready. We bought a brand new bike off Crescent, and we didn't know what colour to paint it, so I just painted it the same colour as I thought, being nice, their corporate colours with the yellow of the van. And I found out later it was a Vauxhall, just standard colour of the van, and it was just absolutely terrible. So It's he came along and he helped out Stu because we had no mechanics. It was just me and Jason, and we pulled up with his bike and number 3 on it. I was 3rd on the road, and it never been tested. And we'd done an engine in I don't know why, we'd done a gearbox in practice, so we had to get another gearbox sent over. One bite, one bit like that, and that was it. So. Yeah, he did the fuel stop. His job was basically give me the water bottle, clean the screen, clean my visor, and that's it. Dead simple. And Stuart's like a machine. You trust him with your life. And he'd be no problem. And he just fell apart. I come into the pits and I said, "Cap." He forgot to take the cap off, so he took the cap off. By that time, he'd sprayed loads of Mr. Machine.
Where were you in the race at this point, do you know?
I think I was doing quite well. I think I was 5th or something. So
okay,
I was
so
quite,
the clock's ticking at this point.
Yeah,
so here we go.
So it's like, I think he's never been put in that, in that situation where, till you've done it, it sounds easy, but I've done it.
I was about to say, have you ever done a pit stop yourself?
Yeah. But he sprayed polish on the screen and polish on my visor. I said, "Cap." And then he went, so he took the cap off. Then he's just standing there looking at me. I goes, "Water." So he passed me the water. So then I goes, "My visor." And he cleaned my visor. And then I goes, "Get the cap ready to go back on." He goes, "Right, okay." So he got the cap on and then we went off. And I just got to the end of, the just top of Bray Hill, and all the Mr. Sheen, he just forgot to clean off the screen, just went flat out onto my visor, so I couldn't see anything till I got hold of another tear off. So that I only had one tear off for the last 2 laps. So it was he did have a bit of a hard time about that one, but till you've been in that situation, like I said, it's I think Ian Locker, the pit crew had to go home for some reason. And I was with Black Horse, sponsored by Black Horse at the time, and he was riding for Black Horse. And they said, "Do you know anyone who do the wheel change?" And I go, "Well, I'll do it. It's easy. I've changed millions of wheels." And
piece of piss,
they go, "Are you
this, man."
sure? Are you sure?" And I go, "Yeah, of course. Well, that's what's the problem." I thought it'd be interesting, something to do, And
This is a man's life. We're playing with you.
well,
I love your style.
This is what. And then I think I practiced about 30, 40 times. Went up to Douglas Road to even test it when he was running it, and then did it, in the awning and out on a road, and thought, yeah. And then at night I lay there, I thought, "Oh my God, what have I let myself in for?" This is like worrying, and it's amazing how quick time goes. They said 4 minutes till he comes, everything ready, and we got it all planned. They passed me the wheel, and I'd put the wheel in. That's it. Simple, isn't it? But they passed it me about, the light came on, so we got probably about a minute, and they passed me the wheel, and the wheel's got the tyre warmer on still, with it all tied in knots as well, all the rope on the side. I'm like, oh my God. So I'm there, I've got gloves on as well. I'm trying to undo these knots to get the tyre warmer off before he comes down, and then next thing he's coming down towards us, so I'm not ready for anything now. Got none of my tools aren't ready or anything like that, and anyway, it just stops, and it just everything slows down. Then there's cameras in your face, and I undone the wheel. The wheel spindle went straight in, and I put the new wheel in. And I said to Ian, "I'll tell you this now, I've raced." I said, "That wheel will be tight before I go out. If even it takes me, a day, it'll be tight." I remember going a click with the ratchet, and I went another click with the torque wrench again, and I thought, right, go. And I didn't do it 3 times, and I just in my head I was going to do it 3 times. And he went off down Bray Hill. I thought, and everyone said, "Oh, well done, just got through that." And he come past the start and finish on the next lap, and it was wobbling and out of control. I thought, oh my God, I know what's happened. The spindle's coming out. I thought, at least I know where he'll go down, it'll be like quarter.
Yeah, if he gets the quarter bridge, he'll be all right. Yeah, there's just a pub.
It's a slow one. And anyway, he was so nervous the whole 2 laps, and then he came in for the next stop, and the stop went perfectly, to be honest with you, and put the wheel in, and I did 2, then 3, and a real big one at the end just to make sure. And it was. I'm glad I done it, but I respect people who do it now in the paddock, because it's so nerve-wracking. If you ever get a chance to do it, don't.
So now that you've done that, do you have who does your wheel change? Do you go you? It's just we met Alec.
Well,
your man
Alec does a lot of the stuff, and he's got it wrong a couple of times, but you can't have a go, because it's to get that right all the time, and especially with these super stock bikes and spacers and things like that, it's so nerve wracking. So I used to hit the mechanics. I used to like basically. I had one of my old mechanics. I was riding a Ducati, and he was like taking ages, and I was smacking him on the head and everything, saying, "Come on!" Like, I was lying. I think it was when I was on McCulloch 95 or something like that. And I was like at a podium position chance. And I'm smacking him on the head, and he just turned around to me. He said, "Stop smacking him on the head. I'll do it even quicker." So you got. You don't. You just all you do. You want to get that pitch as quick as you can.
I know it was good to get that appreciation though. For
Oh, it does.
So, yeah,
It's a massive learning curve, and anyone thinks it's easy. It's not. And.
I was going to ask you what's your scariest moment around it, like in road racing, but that sound you nearly teared up there with fear. That was like a proper trip down memory lane. I was like, Jesus,
proper,
What is your biggest like oh shit moment? Like while
I
you've been doing
think
the
I
TT?
was doing
British, it could be.
Yeah, scariest time I think at TT is there's been two events. I think one was I was doing GP, so I was flying back from Mugello, in between. So in the middle of TT week, I was doing a GP, and so that the travelling from the circuit to the airport, then from there to another airport, then to the Isle of Man, it was like 2 flights and all that. Then I had to go backwards and forwards, like that 4 times, and that was mentally mad to do, but Honda wanted me to do it, and I nearly crashed going just the last corner before Glen Helen. Just because I wasn't concentrating, I just like looked up and the wall was there, and I thought that was like the biggest wake-up call. But the other scariest thing I think was electric bike, the Moto Sis bike, the TT0 bike. Never been on one before. Sat there with the Americans, and they're all showing me how beautiful this bike, and it was gorgeous, carbon fibre, everything. And I was just going out on my big bike for practice, and I said, right, get everything ready for me. I'll jump on the electric bike for the last lap, and I said I'll have a feel of the suspension, and I pushed on the suspension, and the handlebar snapped off.
Jesus.
And I was like holding the handlebar in my hand, going, "Was this meant to happen?" And he was going, "Oh, don't worry, I'll glue it back on." So I goes, "What?" So I just got on the bike, my suit bike. I thought, I won't see that again. So I just cleared off, come back in, and talking, debriefing with the team, and then they turn this pat on my back, say, "Right, the bike's ready." And I goes, "Well, what are you doing?" Because the carbon fibre, it was like the carbon fibre handlebar wasn't just a handlebar where you slide on; it was made into the fork. So it was like it wasn't like putting a handlebar on. And he goes, "I've just glued it on." And he said, "I guess what you're telling me?" She goes, "Look, I know it sounds bad, but this is what repair planes with. This is what
This isn't a plane, love. This is the TT."
Well, that's exactly what I said. This is not a plane, is it? This is me holding on to. And he goes, "Look, we need the data. Just ride around real slow." And it was actually left-hand handlebar, and that was snapped off. And I went off down Braille thinking, what the hell am I doing? And I just held on to the top yoke and the handlebar on the other side. But then I thought, what about the handlebar on that side? So it was... so
you're riding it like a bloody jockey on a horse. You've just got a hold of the yoke going, diddlin.
You do some stupid things. And
definitely not confidence inspiring that just before you set off down
No,
Braille.
no.
Speaking of the electric TT, mind, that's been a really good class for you.
Yeah.
And obviously, just before we start the podcast, we kind of alluded to the battle with McGuinness, and obviously that turned out to be some crack for but talk us through that, because obviously that people about that race.
Me and John have always been competitive. If he can have a dig at me, he'll have a dig at me. I'll have a dig at him. It's nothing.
Sorry, when did you first meet John McGuinness? Because that crack builds up for years, because you two torment each other like a couple of schoolground kids.
I remember John really super team. That's when I first really knew John, because obviously that's when it was on a Shell scholarship, Yamaha, whatever it was, 400 Yamaha. And, obviously I remember for him and Darren Mitchell and Jason Vince, there was like quite a few real fast riders in it. And James Aiden, James in that year as well. And it was, it yeah, John, like all through my career, it's been like bouncing off each other, you know. But we've only really started hating each other, kind of thing. Probably when we got to probably about 35, 40, you know, he was like, he got a Honda ride, and I was probably a bit jealous with him. And then I'd have something, and he wouldn't, and it was like we were like two school kids we have, and it's always like if we can wind each other up, and sometimes I wind him up and I don't realise it, and I don't think I'm a bit of a person for not taking the piss, but just a bit of a joke. Kind of thing.
Dry is the term.
Yeah,
Dry as a stick, man.
And all week he's been, you know, he got his 10 mechanics with his Mugen, and he's got his nice Mugen shirt on, and we're with the Americans, and they got just basically pizzas and McDonald's, and like, you know, it was nothing like the Mugen setup. It was, you know, it was the envy of the paddock, and the Mugen bike was beautiful. Obviously our bike was just as good, but the thing is with the Japanese, it was just the style of it. It looked like a GP 500. It was just something I was jealous of, really, as well. And honestly, we didn't think we would win that race. And the only thing I had in hand, I could ride my bike. John, to be fair, he was on a strategy, and that's what he was stuck to. You know, he could hold it flat out, and that's all he could do. And the bike did the rest. Well, not flat out everywhere, but I mean, you know, basically you only got so much power, and he could ride it as quick as he wanted to. But if the bike started, you know, running low on power, it would work itself out. Mine I had a dashboard with about 6 different sectors of the circuit, which I had the power to be within this for different sectors. So I just looked at my pit board, and then I knew if I was the faster bits, you use more power because it's pushing itself through the wind. So we just worked it out that we wouldn't be very quick in the bottom part of the circuit, but the top end of the circuit and over the mountain, we could work it out that we could get away with a bit more. And John was like, he had it won, and John pulled up. I think he won far behind me, about 10 bike lengths behind me. He could see me anyway. He'd done his job. Really, just had to follow me home, and I just waited till I got to, I think it was over the bungalow, and I just nailed this bike, and it just, and he said he'd just seen me just riding off into the distance, and all he could do was hold it flat out, and he can't do any more, and the bike just calculated for him. I could run out within 30 seconds of power, you know, it'd be gone, and I just got over the line. It went 0-0 and everything. And they announced John had won it, and all the Japanese were cheering, and everyone's hugging each other, and then they say they've got it wrong. I'd won it. So anyway, John was just like, he got off the bike, and he had the watch already on his wrist, in his head, and he already spent the money, and he'd already, you know, won the race in his head anyway before the race had started, which on paper he should have. And
was this like a 10 grand check for? Was it?
No, that was another time.
Oh,
and he basically said something to me. He goes, "This isn't a fucking race. It's a fucking joke," and like all this. And I'm like giggling like else. I can't believe I said you shouldn't have had so many McDonald's and things like that. just taking the piss all the way up till we got to the podium. We're on the podium, and he's going, "It's fucking just ridiculous. It's just a joke. It's just a fucking joke." And I thought, he's been serious here. So then I started to really wind him up and just really give him
Get some digs in.
And then for the whole week, we got the whole team, just like, because we're riding for Honda then as well. We're all in the same team. Me, Michael Dunlop, and Tux he had a hard time the whole week. We just drilled him, really. And he didn't take it well, and he never spoke to me properly until we're on the plane to Japan for the 8 hour. And he was going off again about this bloody electric bike race, and I just turned around to him. I said, "Just grow up, John." I said, "Get yourself. Look at you. You've won, you know, senior TT, super bike races." I said, "I'd give all them up just, you know, for one of those wins." And he looked at me and he goes, "Yeah, you're right." And he goes, "I apologise. I couldn't believe it." And you know, we have our ups and downs, but we like to take the piss out of each other, and it's quite good banter because he knows deep down, you know, I do respect John. He's done fantastic. You know, he's a bit overweight, a bit ugly, a bit smelly, but he kind of everything. He's a very good rider.
I tell you what, when you're talking about like trading it all for wins, now I remember when you won the lightweight on the pattern, and it was on the front of the Manx Independent or something like that. I remember going in to fill up my cans for the race, and it comes up, Michael Rutter. Last time I won a race, it was in black and white. Oh, brilliant!
That was a long time ago. Yeah. But I won that 10 grand check because we were the first one to go over 100 mile an hour, and John was like sick as a pig, like with that, and so I got this big check, and I put it on his motorhome underneath the windscreen wipers and just pushed it against there. So when he woke up in the morning, he just
saw that in the morning.
That, well, give him a hard time.
We're also just talking about the classic race. Was it last year when and you ended up having almost?
So were you having a cheap shot at us while I was out helping?
No.
Oh, before I knew something was happening.
Before the podcast. We were talking about it was at the 350 race, and Dom was in second and you were in third. But go on. You.
Do you know what it was? I had I fell off the 350 because me and Lee were going round. I come out of Glen Allen, and
this is in practice,
yeah, and I just these bikes are so difficult to ride if they can catch you out, and it just shows you how they can catch you out because they're very like mountain bike forks basically in them, and
bicycle
tires.
tires.
The flex are like really, really bad, and if you don't hit the gas at the right time, they keep on bouncing across the road. But you've got to have the balls to like hold them flat out to get them out of it. And I tipped in, and I don't know what I was thinking, and I just didn't hit the gas like I should have, and it just started bouncing across the track. I thought, oh my god, I'm going to run out of road here, and I did. I hit the barrier, and I got away with it, and then the foot peg just caught in the last part of the bale and just pulled me off. And I was like, oh shit! So they wouldn't let me get back on, and it scared me a bit because I've always rode those things and always been able to ride out of any of the hopping they have and all that, because it's very unnerving if you don't know what they're doing. And in that race, I just couldn't get going, and I forgot who passed me on the road. Who?
Jamie Coward.
Jamie Coward passed me and made me look stupid. I thought, Michael, just get on with it now. And I got back to it, hopping and moving around again, and I started to enjoy it. And I seen my pit board, and I didn't know it was you. Like I thought, I got to get second now. It's ridiculous. So I called myself back up, and I got past Jamie, and I thought, and he come down the straight, and we levelled. Our bikes are about the same speed, and I thought, just let me through. I just got to get this last half a lap just bang on, and. I was, just beat you by 1 second, wasn't it, over the line?
It was solid the move, that one, I'm telling you. I tell you, it was funny that because you were talking about the practice form when you tipped off. Now, I broke down on the 500. This is practice, and I broke down the 350 practice before the 500 race that we were both in. Now, the only reason I got in that race was because of Michael. Because, now, let's be honest, when a rock star like yourself breaks down, they move heaven and earth to get you to the start line. So anyway, he's tipped off, at Glen. So he's come round in the course card, picked me up at Ramsey. And I'm sitting there hitching a hike. And honestly, we got on this car, and me and him were like, chatting away out of Ramsey. And both me and him went fucking stone silent. This bloke... you can only describe him as the Milky Bar Kid, right? The most unsuspected assassin in a vehicle ever. He was buckling the wheels, wasn't he? In that course convoy, it was literally. I'm
not the best passenger anyway, so
I was terrible. And honestly, but sitting there, and I'm this close, Chrissy, to putting on my helmet. I'm going, we're going off the bloody mountain here. Pulled up the line, and me and him were on the start line for the 500, G'd up to fuck like that, going, yeah, let's have it. And we're proper on the chomp. It was brilliant.
Speaking of, do you know, close races?
By the way, the 350 race, he only beat me because I had a mechanical. But anyway, let's move on.
Speaking of battles, my first ever Superstock 1000 podium. It was a wet race at Oulton Park,
yeah.
and I have very fond memories of this. And going into that, I actually thought I was fourth at the time going into the last corner, and Michael was just in front, and I managed to just squeeze past him. So I thought I'd just got third, but Rispoli or someone had actually crashed in front of us, so we were actually second and third anyway, and went over the line. And obviously it's like the euphoria, like first podium, like whatever. I was just absolutely buzzing, and got into Parc Fermé, and like all the teams there and stuff, and took my helmet off going to the podium. And Mike, it would be funny if I could do your accent, but I can't. And you said, you said,
go on.
my no, I can't. You said, mate, you need like great race and whatever, but a little bit of advice. You just need to settle yourself down a little bit. You said the first time that you sat us up, or like scraped my phones, I thought, fucking hell, that was close. And then the second time you did it, I was like, bloody hell. But the third time, I thought, this kid's taking the piss. And like, I remember me and my mechanic still talking about that. It was so funny. But you were right, obviously. But you know what it's like when you're that age, and you're just getting enough money from your sponsors just to like, just to.
It's racing at the end of the day. And it was. I got the Northwest 200 and the TT coming just after. I said, "Don't smash me up before the Northwest."
Yeah, I remember.
It's you see it though, and people. When they come along and you see and you go, wow, that's spectacular, like with yourself and watching yourself coming up through that, and because we didn't know who you were before, and then suddenly you were there, and it was
out the portions,
and it was like, wow, like who's this? Like, you took me out of the bar off, and like, whoa, again. So it's but it's all a learning curve. We've all been there. It's
see that's what I love about this sport. You only get to know people by getting in their face, on track, don't you? You would never have known who he was. Let's face it. You've got your own thing, your own team, until he started smashing you up. That's the truth of it. It's brilliant.
That's the big thing in racing. Like, people go to me, who's won that race, who's done this, who's done that. To be honest with you, I see what's around me, and and that's it. And then the people probably in front of you, you don't want to beat them. So that is it. That's my weekend.
Especially with like what you're doing now and running a team and all the extra, the manpower and the concentration that goes into not just running yourself, but the whole thing. And obviously last year you had Taylor McKenzie riding alongside you in the same team. And how have you? Like, when you were earlier in your career, did you think about, when it came towards retirement, did you think about setting up a team, things, or was it just sort of happened naturally?
It just sort of happened, and to be honest with you, as soon as that, I've got somebody else. When we got Taylor for the first time, as a racer, you change. As soon as I started running the team, the Bathams team here, and luckily enough, I've got like Alec with me, who, we do, 50-50. He doesn't like 90% of the work on the bikes, but it's a team effort. And the only trouble is now, where I've noticed, I know how much things cost, and it's scary, and when you crash, you think, oh, it's only a little one, but it's not just what's that, it's another bit, it's this, and then you got to get painted, and your racing goes like downhill massively after you start doing it. And then when you start doing it with someone like with Taylor last year, when we had a chance of winning the championship, I was going around going, there's a yellow flag there, is that Taylor? And I was racing myself but looking out for him, and I'm nowhere near like what I was. I do it because I enjoy doing it, and I do it because it helps me at road racing as well. Because when I go road racing, I'm on my own, so it's like back to what it was. I can just concentrate on me, and that's it. But the days of British Championship, while I've got a teammate, is just, like with Richard this year, it'll be Richard Cooper this year we got on. Hopefully, if we go racing this year, he'll be 100% behind him, and me, I'm just there, just if I can help in any way. But everything's going to be focused on him.
What do you think your motivation's been to? If you'd asked your 25-year-old self, do you think you would be in the position you are now, still racing and stuff? What's kept that hunger and the motivation to keep every single year getting the leathers on and, going out TT, all that?
I think I've appreciated it more since this lockdown, really, of, you sit in your garden, which it might sound real stupid, but I've sat in my garden, and this is probably the first time in my life, really, I've sat there, because I've been racing obviously with my dad before, and I've carried on through racing. I've watched the grass grow, I normally go and the trees are bare, and then I come back after TT and everything's green. I've watched everything, like things grow, and I've gone like, wow, it's like, this is special. But now I'm bored. Now I want to go.
We're getting such an embryonic moment now. I'm thinking, Jesus, we're witnessing somebody who's like, I'm bored of that stuff now.
No, but I mean,
thank God for
I
that,
want,
Chrissy.
you know, would you be rather now sitting waiting to go down Braille, on
That's
a
what I was
bike? I'd love to be going to
Tomorrow we should be going
yeah.
down Bray Hill.
I know, and
How upsetting is that?
it's just the whole. Just the riding's the whole journey to get there.
It's a life.
It's a life, and I've done it. All I know is racetracks, and I know my garden well now, but I don't know where. I'd rather be at the racetrack.
Fitting title for your book, obviously. It is like the life of a racer, isn't it?
It's the life of racing. It does take over your life. It's people, you always try and be nice to people because, as well, when you're on the way up, you will be coming back down, and there's always someone behind you. And I've seen what happened with my dad. My dad had a lot of good sponsors, still sponsored, who looked after him after it, but he had a lot of people who didn't. And you're only as good as your last race, and that is how it always has been. I think how it always will be. If you can do the media side of it, you can make it last a lot longer. But I've been real lucky because we got Bathams who sponsored me for the last 10 years, over 10 years, 11 years now. And if they stopped, I would stop, because it's enjoyable. I enjoy it. They're enthusiasts. They're not doing it just to have their photograph taken. They keep well away at the background. They love coming, enjoying the social side of it, and they do it for the right reasons. And I'm lucky I can do it right with them. They give me an amount of money, and offer me other sponsors. We can do it right, or we wouldn't do it at all. So where I've ended up is not where I planned, but it's what I enjoy at the moment, and I'd like it to carry on and build it up. I'd like it to get not bigger, but get more competitive, get more stuff around you. And it's the thing, what you can't just do overnight. It's over years. You need to build it up.
I tell you what, you make it sound like you've just packed in. You haven't. Now let me just big you up here. A little bit of smoke blowing up your arse, right? You are still going quicker at every circuit. The Isle of Man. You haven't just stopped at it. You're the fast. You still own
What's your fastest lap?
131.
131.
Now, bearing in mind, it was only on the Honda. Few years ago you were doing 130s. Now bear in mind you can still run at stock 1,000 level at the top. Don't just nod your head at me, Michael. You're fast as
I don't know about that.
I'm telling you, you can.
It's getting harder. The problem is what I've found is you think about it more, which I think about a lot more because of doing this job. I think if I was just racing, I think I'd be a lot better at it. It's really hurting
Like the
me.
mind purely on the
Pure.
job.
You got to be a selfish person, and everything in your life doesn't matter. It's just be going on that bike as quick as you can, and that takes your edge off. But then again, I'm getting older, so I've got to do bits I want to do. Like there's certain tracks which benefit me a lot more than some of the other tracks. Like I hate hairpins, chicanes, things like that. I like the Thruxtons, places like the fast stuff, and Doningtons aren't too bad, so all the stop and go stuff like Ulm Park, we put all the chicanes in. And
Donington's great when you miss the last second. No, that if you go right at Foggy S's,
that's it.
it's like absolutely bang on.
Yeah,
but it's only that last sector that's a bit of a.
It's amazing what people. That's what I remember, like the old Alton Park without the chicanes, and the Northwest 200s without them, and all these things. They're putting there for safety.
Imagine how fast the average speed at the Northwest would be now if without the chicanes. It would be crazy.
Phenomenal.
But one thing that I really want to ask you about is over the last few years, obviously you've been on throughout your career. You've ridden for pretty much every single manufacturer over the years, and recently you've invested in the Honda RC. Is it RC12?
RC 213.
213. What on earth? I mean, that for people who listen to the podcast who don't know, it's pretty much a MotoGP bike.
Basically, yeah, it's a MotoGP bike they put on the road. They thought they were going to build, I think, 250 of these. They didn't build that many because of the earthquake in Japan. So we don't know how many are actually made, but there isn't that many. Mm-hmm. If there's probably about 150, probably.
It certainly stands out from the rest.
And it's just like phenomenal bike. He's done so much for us Bathams team as well, because he's just upped our profile. Because it is a road bike. We've actually turned into more of a race bike, and there's still so much to do with it. But it's the cost of running something like that. The phenomenal costs. So.
Even when you do them demo laps at BSB, just the noise doesn't matter where you are. Like if you're in the vicinity of Brands Hatch, you just hear this like screaming and obviously at the TT,
the TT Macau like coming through. Like I think someone's got footage of it, like the first lap coming through. And on an early morning practice, 7 o'clock in the morning, it echoes off the buildings. It's.
Be honest, the first time you rode it, we were nursing a semi the whole lap.
It was.
He wasn't, but I was, and I was on the same track. I'm like, go on, son.
It's mega bike.
Amazing. But I tell you what, before we let you shoot, we've got a little bit of a charity thing going on, and we've got the
bigger challenge.
Yeah, you've already signed the Macmillan the helmet that's been donated. So thank you very much for that. And linked with that, we've got we've been donated a PlayStation 4, and we've got the TT game. And the challenge is we've picked a sector. I think it was sector 4 on the TT course. And what we're going to do is all of our guests, we're going to have like a Top Gear style leaderboard, and you're going to have to give it your best. So go on, Dom, you can take the mic and I'll get this set up.
So the crack is, you've already had Lee Johnson. Now, what was Lee Johnson's time, Chrissy? 1:48, right? So you have a 1:48 time to beat. Now, I'll tell you what, for our listeners, he's glazed over here. He's taken out. He's like that. Let's just get on with it. Now, have you played this game before, Michael? No, so this is going to be interesting. Running your own team, he hasn't got time to play with PlayStations.
I do actually play on these things with Richard Cooper, and we'll play on there's a GP game. But I've played the TT one.
So he's in the garden and playing on PlayStations. This little global pandemic's been quite nice to you, hasn't it?
I haven't played them for years, only because I've had time.
I've only had time. You wait till I get going. So do you think we'll comfortably get going? Who would you like to ride? Like, we'll go. Oh no, Chris has already made your mind up. So Bruce Anstey. So
yeah, gotta be Bruce. Yeah,
absolutely brilliant. So do you keep in touch with Bruce at all, or?
Bruce, I think, lives his own life. Once or twice I've tried to ring him, but I think he just appears at the Northwest and the TT, and then beats us all, and then hides away again for the rest of the year. So
he is absolutely phenomenal as a rider. You just think he's totally cloak and dagger. He's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
Can you stop talking to me now? I'm concentrating.
No, not a chance. This is part of the game, son. This is you're welcome to the deep end. So we're just going to ask you absolutely random questions while we're going.
Press start. Yeah.
Here we go. Press start. Look at this. The experience in this. Right, here we go. Section 4. The tension's high. Bruce Anstey lining up, and it's about a rod. And it's rodded straight off the bat. Yeah. So, Michael, we're just going to ask you a few questions. So we'll start you off nice and steady. When did you lose your virginity?
About a week ago.
A week ago? Jesus, wept young'un. So, when's the last time you had a piss in the shower? Nice corner.
In your shower?
Huh? In my shower? I know. You've got to stop coming around to my place. It's absolutely terrible. What's your favourite film?
Oh, favourite film? I'd go Silver Dream Racer.
Silver Dream Racer? There we go. We're going to have to Google that one, Chrissy. I've never even bloody heard of it. Right, if you're Prime Minister for the day, right? No, sorry. If you could change any law, what law would you change?
I would... Oh, what would I change? I don't know. I haven't got a clue.
Go on. Go on. No, you're supposed to be... No, I know you're trying to concentrate here. Come on.
What would I change? I would give more money to bike racing.
Oh, nice. I like it. So what's your most disgusting habit? Bar pissing in my shower.
Eating and eating everybody else's food.
Oh, you're getting sat up by the Spaniard Raoul. Whoa. That was the corner he crashed on. There you are. He's just duffed it up round the corner.
Have a portion.
He's having a portion. Best saying ever. I think
going on?
That is an echoing terminology that's going to keep going for me for the rest of my life. Because I'm dishing out the portions at MCN London there. So he's up on the final straight.
Clive would do a good bike here. What's going on here? He's got no speed.
Well, you're on 100 at the moment.
What's on the rev limiter?
You're absolutely off it. Here we go. 136, 137, 138. Oh, 39. He's right. Here we are. He's looking. The shoulders are back. I'm the man. He's back on top. There we are. The man who will never retire. I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. So what are your plans for if we get going? What are the plans for Bathams yourself?
Basically, we've got Richard Cooper, like I said before, is the main thing. Luckily, we've got BMW backing. We've got a lot of sponsors which have stuck with us through this as well, like with Bathams, the EBC Group, and ELAS, and Alpine Stars and things like that. Because obviously, unfortunately, we lost my dad not long back as well. So we're trying to do something to incorporate probably a colour one-off bike like his old Ducati, something to paint in his colours. I'm going to do a meeting in his colours as well, just something a bit just a tribute to him, because unfortunately for him it was when all this came out, and we only had 6 people, or no, I think it was 9 people at the funeral, and there's loads of people who want to do something, so we're trying to arrange something for him at the end of the year if all this clears up.
Brilliant.
Get some of his old bikes out, and I'm going to do 1 or 2 of the rounds in British Championship if I can help with the development of the new BMW. Richard's obviously the one we're going to look at, and then we're going to look at, obviously, road racing wise, Macau coming up again. So luckily I won last year. I beat Pete fair and square.
Well, we'll gently glaze over that one for next time. There we go.
Yeah, and I'll teach Pete to mess about on the first lap. But
there we are. Life lessons.
It was. You're looking forward to going back there. I enjoy going back there. I've been there since 94. I think I've been there. So I've missed 1 year, and it's good to have a bit of a change.
Absolutely brilliant. But obviously, from me and Chrissy at Chasin the Racing here, it's anything we can do to help out with your memorial for your dad there. We've got this dodgy little caravan, and we can anything we can do that goes without saying, we'll do a bit.
Thank you.
And can we just extend the thank you and just say massive thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciated spending some time with you, and I'm sure we've got the dog, the dog back in. Good timing, but yeah, really appreciate you coming on, and best of luck when the racing does get going.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers, Michael.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.